This is pretty big. It's in many ways the first really significant Supreme Court rebuke of the administration. And this is a court that's kind of gone out of its way to accommodate him as much as possible. So the legal ruling is not surprising. It's not that anyone was going, oh, this was the president was okay on the law. He clearly was not. It's the fact that the court is willing to stand up to him that's really striking.
Right, standing up to him, and including by some of the justices that he nominated as well. Neil Gorsuch, for instance, ruling against the tariffs, although Brett Kavanaugh and two other conservative justices did dissent. We should mention that there's a headline here from a U.S. official. It's what we call at Bloomberg a hothead. President Trump will travel to China from March 31st to April 2nd. And I think I bring this up because this has been one of the criticisms of the administration, which is that the president has focused a lot more on foreign policy, foreign affairs, than he has on domestic issues, particularly those most relevant to Americans who feel the pressure of inflation and the pressure of the affordability crisis. Do you expect an uptick in foreign policy adventures from this White House now that we have this legal setback from the Supreme Court?
So I do expect the uptick, but I'm not sure they're related. Second-term presidents almost always focus more and more on foreign policy, partly because they are thinking about their legacy, and partly because their control over their domestic political party inevitably ebbs, since they're not going to be on the ballot again. And so every member of the Republican Party, however afraid they might be of Donald Trump, is less afraid with each passing day, just because he has less ability to influence their political fortunes. So that kind of leaves him to divert out to the foreign policy stance. But I think what's more the striking thing here is essentially is how much self-control he will be able to exert when this rebuke on what is his signature policy from a court that he thinks of as essentially his property. What's going to happen next is I'm not sure anyone can predict it.
Gautam, I mean, these tariffs have been really the centerpiece, the backbone of much of how President Trump interacts with other countries, getting them to make investment announcements in the U.S. because of the threat, tacit, explicit, however you want to phrase it, of tariffs. Has he lost that power, that leverage right now?
I mean, he's clearly lost a lot of it. And what's striking is how broad the Supreme Court decision is. It's not just saying you can't do this under this particular sort of twisting of the law. The decision seems quite structured to say you just can't do this without the court. But while President Trump got many announcements of major investments in the United States, it's really not clear that any of that was very substantive. There's some combination of sort of other countries sort of playing the game and giving him his press releases. And also, I think a lot of other countries that realized that if they waited this out, there was a very good chance the Supreme Court would rule this way. So they were just better off, giving him shiny objects and letting the game play out.
From the administration's perspective, is there anything they can do to kind of drag their feet on complying with this Supreme Court ruling?
On complying, so if they do, then we are in the midst of sort of what I think everybody has been trying to avoid, even the Trump administration, which is a direct confrontation between the Supreme Court and the presidency. That could get very bad very fast, and I think no one wants to see it. What they will probably do is find other legal sort of pretexts to try and exert these tariffs. But I think what we'll have to watch is the Supreme Court ruling does not mandate whether the money that has been already collected has to be refunded. That is going to be complete chaos. And watching that legal process as companies sue for what was, after all, we now know a clearly unconstitutional, unjustified taking, it'll be a full employment act for lawyers for the next 5 years, I guess.
Gautam, boy, if I'm in Congress today, if I'm a Republican, if I'm a Democrat, I feel like the president's been wounded here a little bit. Do you expect to see a change in tone with the president and his relationship with both parties in Congress here? And boy, we have the State of the Union coming up just next week.
Yeah, the president has been wounded. It's not once. That's not just once. This might be the most significant wound. But, there is blood in the water, and the Democratic sharks are starting to circle. I think you're also starting to see, right now it's only Republicans who are sort of leaving office. Thom Tillis is the most prominent example of people who are just sort of saying, enough is enough. I cannot swallow this anymore. But they're not the last one. I suspect they won't be the last ones. With every number that he tricks down in the polls, that's going to get easier. In some sense, I think the Supreme Court may actually have saved Donald Trump from himself a little bit, because these tariffs were not popular, and striking them down might actually help him a little bit in public opinion, depending again upon how he reacts to it. I think we're all waiting for the next Truth Social post with bated breath.
We certainly are. And we should mention that Caitlin Collins of CNN did send out a social media post saying that President Trump called it a disgrace, the Supreme Court ruling, and reportedly told the governors at the White House breakfast with governors that he has a backup plan. Gautam, what does this mean for companies that have been having to pony up the money for tariffs and now, because the tariffs are ruled illegal, have the possibility of maybe clawing them back if we move in that direction? How do they make decisions? How do they move forward with any kind of planning? How do they think through what their next year, 2 years, 3 years looks like?
I mean, that has been the central question of every kind of corporate decision making since the day Donald Trump returned to office. The level of uncertainty is high, and it's going to keep getting higher, because this is not an administration that seems to have a back down mode. My guess would be that the refunds and things like that will be handled by the lawyers, and if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, well, that is not, in some sense, that is not a decision that companies have an ability to influence. They should try to get the money back. Whether they'll succeed or not, I have no idea. What they have to worry much more about, I think, is what will the next step be? Because there will certainly be a lashing out, and does that mean that companies that have thought they had gained exemptions or thought they had stable windows to trade are going to lose that? They might.